Now then, it's a year to the day that Barack Obama entered the White House as the 44th President of the United States. But what an anniversary. It's marked by an incredible electoral upset, with Republicans last night winning the Massachusetts Senate seat. It was left vacant with the death of Ted Kennedy and has always been seen as a Democrat stronghold. Well, we've been joined by politics commentator Denis Campbell. Welcome to you, Denis.
Thank you.
But before we go on to look at that Senate result and review President Obama's first year in office, let's take a look at this.
My fellow citizens, I stand here today humbled by the task before us, grateful for the trust you've bestowed, mindful of the sacrifices borne by our ancestors.
One thing is very, very clear as I travel throughout the state. People do not want the trillion-dollar health care plan that is being forced. That is being forced on the American people. And this bill is not being debated openly and fairly. It will raise taxes. It will raise taxes. It will hurt Medicare. It will destroy jobs and run our nation deeper into debt. Yeah, deeper into debt. That's not anything to clap about because it's not in the interest of our state. It's nothing to clap about, and it's not in the interest of our state and our country, and we can do better.
Scott Brown and, of course, Obama there and his inauguration. Denis, what went wrong for the Democrats?
Well, what didn't go wrong for the Democrats? We had a candidate. Well, first of all, we have a horrific time for any incumbent politician in the United States right now. If you're sitting in office, there's a very, very strong throw-the-bums-out mentality across the board in the United States. Secondly, the candidate, Martha Coakley, did not run a very inspired campaign.
She went on holiday, helplessly.
She did go on holiday just after she got the nomination. The seat has been in the hands of the Democrats for 47 years. So this is Teddy Kennedy's seat. He's won by an average of 65 to 70% every time he's run, with the one exception being against the former Governor Mitt Romney. So it was a very surprising situation to see a 32-point lead go down to a 5-point loss.
What about Obama? I mean, it has enormous implications for him, but I mean, his approval rating has gone down from around 70% to just over 50% in a relatively short time. Why has the shine come off him so quickly?
Well, I think it's part of the whole issue of having to actually govern versus having to campaign. And when you're governing and you're in a situation now for a period of a year where you've inherited 2 wars, you have an economy that was teetering on the brink. If you look historically at how presidents have done, if you go back to FDR, for example, he came in 1932 with the New Deal. If you look at what Johnson came in, he came in after the death of a fairly popular president, but in very difficult times. Both of those presidents only had to focus on domestic issues. Obama's had to deal with 2 very unpopular wars and everything else that goes with it. And I think it's just the wear and tear also of the bruising healthcare fight that he's had to undergo as well.
Peter, I know that you've been following events there closely. I mean, it has been remarkable, hasn't it? And difficult for left of centre parties.
Well, I think Denis has absolutely got it right in the sense that once you are an incumbent party, and particularly when you've got elected on very high expectations, that you can't always meet those expectations.
Are they too high, do you think?
Well, I think they were too high, but very quickly, because of the problems which Obama inherited, he became the one who was responsible for them. People's memories are very short, and I think that has damaged the Democrats as well. I mean, in a sense, the presidency is a 4-year presidency. We're just at the end of the first year, and he's got another year to pull it round before the midterms. And I think, and he's playing a long game. I think there are signs already that the economy's starting to come right, and hopefully that as he moves towards those midterms, he'll start to pull back those opinion poll ratings. So I'm hopeful that as he starts to get things working for him, and starts to unroll the long-term plan he's got, things will turn around.
Neris, I mean, he made great play there of engaging with younger voters and using all technological ways of getting to them. We'll be talking about that later. But how has that slip so badly? Because the polls show that the slip in relation to younger voters is almost more remarkable.
Well, obviously, Obama's great pledge was reaching out to people who hadn't voted before. So obviously, their kind of experience of politics was fairly new. So possibly the disappointment to them was even greater. But as Peter was saying, managing expectation, we know here, even in the Assembly with limited powers, how a massive change, how much of a challenge it is to change policy and change things around. Imagine what Obama's got to deal with, trying to change the tank around in terms of policies. And it's only been a year. He's got bright ideas, he's got a vision, and obviously with now with the votes in the Senate, it's going to be even harder for him to do that. But I think he was right to campaign on change. That's what people needed. But it's just the frustration with the political system to try and actually deliver on his promises now.
Denis, what about losing that seat in the Senate? What impact do you think that will have for Obama?
Well, it's an interesting dilemma. The United States Senate is fundamentally broken. It does not function and it does not work. It's the only body I know of where you have to have 60 votes in order to pass a bill. And the problem that we have right now is with only 59 votes, in theory, his legislative agenda is stopped. But there are other ways in which to move legislation through. And now, rather than just trying to work within the system, which is what he's done, he's been a very good politician for the first year, he now has to become a leader in order to take things.
So it could actually galvanise him to ram things through more, you think?
Absolutely, and I think he has to. He's in a situation where he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he allows health care to just die on the vine, which is what the Republican obstructionist party of no has been trying to do from day one, then it just ends. If he tries to push it through, he also runs the risk of alienating the independent voters that put him into office in the first place. So he's really in a tough situation. So in the opinion of many, why not go down with guns firing is really the way he looks.
How does he turn it around then? I mean, 3 years ago, how do you turn it around?
I think really what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to lead, he's going to have to pull together. Next week on Wednesday evening, he gives his first State of the Union address, and that is a very important milestone speech, and it has to be more than just another great speech from a great orator. It has to lay out very specifically what his plan is going to be, and then he has to execute on that plan.
Because there was so much expected from that soaring rhetoric, wasn't there?
Well, it was, and if you're the candidate of change and then you step back into the status quo, let's face it, he hasn't gone after the banks. He hasn't gone after a lot of the pork that is in the process. He hasn't gone after a lot of the waste and misuse that is currently in the budget. He's really played within the rules of a system in which he has grown up in, which is the United States Senate. And that's where most presidents that come out of the Senate get into trouble, is that they try to be far too diplomatic than actual true leaders.
So that could change. Denis, thanks for that. Denis Campbell there.